Welcome back to part 2 of our sessions as we talk about our Lean philosophies and as we talk about tools from Lean and as we talk about how those will apply to the project that we'll all be participating in. If you watched the first session, you're familiar with who we have at the table. Again, I'm Dawn, we have Catherine, Tracy, and Tracy. So we last spoke about A3 thinking and Tracy went through some great examples and she explained to us what that philosophy is. But now what we like to do is go ahead and Catherine, as the project owner, as one of them, we would like you to kind of talk about A3 thinking and how it applies to our project right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dawn had asked me to give a little bit of a backstory on kind of what we're doing and why we're here. So this is, the topic of readmissions and reducing readmission patients has been, on our mind for quite some time. So Tracy, who's my boss, and I have been discussing this for quite some time and, how can pharmacy help? How can other disciplines help? Like, what can we do to help these patients, live well on their own outside of the hospital? So what we kind of come up with was a post-discharge clinic that we were just going to kind of trial on our own. I usually work in the anticoagulation clinic, and we were just going to kind of run it out of there and see what happened. And we kind of told our readmission meeting team, and they were like, wow, that's awesome. And then they told the readmission summit, and then here we are. So we kind of made some progress here. So I'll bring you through our boxes that we've already done so far. So box 1, of course, is our reason for action. So our mission statement, I guess you could call it, is readmission rates continue to be a challenge, of course. So post-discharge factors that directly impact an increased risk from readmission are patient compliance with follow-up instructions, patient comprehension of multifaceted post-hospitalization education, medication access, and affordability, and of course social support at home. So our thought is by creating a patient-centered follow-up program, we can have early identification of high-risk readmission patients, and we can thus provide interventions that allow these patients to seamlessly continue their care at home and not have to be readmitted. So in scope are all hospitalized patients. Out of scope are patients, the OB patients, behavioral health, and PEDS patients. Our process will start once the patient meets criteria for this clinic, and our process will end about 30 days from the clinic admission. So over here you'll see our metrics box. So these are the things that we're thinking of measuring during this project together. So our first is percentage of patients that participate in the clinic that are subsequently readmitted to any SSM hospital within 30 days of hospital discharge. So initially we really don't have anything because this doesn't exist yet. Secondly, we have percentage of clinic patients that have a 5-day follow-up appointment scheduled. As of right now, again, that's not ready. Lastly, we have percentage of patients that are identified for clinic participation that actually attend the initial clinic appointment as scheduled. So again, we don't really have an initial state because we're just kind of figuring it all out. So,
very good. And so if I'm understanding correctly from what Tracy explained in the last session, that takes us through our burning platform, as Tracy said, and then we talked about kind of our current state with our metrics and that we don't have them. And then that box 3 is, so where do we want to get to? That's our goal state. And it looks like we have a few goals up there. Yeah, so what's the goal for that first metric then?
So our goal is less than 15% of patients that participate in the clinic that are readmitted to any SSM hospital within 30 days of hospital discharge. So we want less than 15% of those patients to come back and have to be readmitted. And then the next 2 are 100%, so 100% of clinic patients have a 5-day follow-up appointment scheduled, and of course we hope that 100% of patients that are scheduled to come see us at the clinic actually follow through with that and come to the initial appointment.
Okay, that makes sense. So then when we're talking about kind of that goal state and that future state that we want to get to, right behind you, you have this SIPOC thing. Right? Can you explain to us a little bit about that and how that fits into this project?
So SIPOC is kind of like a outline, as I like to call it. So it just kind of helps us visualize what is our process going to be. So we've broken it down into SIPOC. So first one is supplier, next one is input, P is process, O is output, and C is customer. So we've really taken some time, our team has, to go through that and kind of think through very high level, what are we thinking for this clinic? Like, what does that look like? So I'm going to take you down the P, or the process, and this again is just high level, and we're going to figure out the specifics in the project ourselves. So the first part is patient identified using project defined criteria. So they're hospitalized, what criteria are we looking for? Like, who are these patients we're trying to target? Second, we're going to enroll and set up the appointment for the patient so that they can come visit us. Then we'll have the actual patient appointment or patient visit here at our discharge clinic. Then we'll have their patient follow-up of initial appointment. So interventions, so say the patient needs Spiriva and they need a coupon, we help them get that situated. Following up on those action items to make sure we're kind of closing the loop for this patient. Of course, our subsequent follow-ups and interventions, and then at 30 days, discharging the patient from the clinic.
Okay, awesome. So again, high level, and the project will kind of
define everything.
Dig in there a little bit more. Awesome.
Yeah.
So as you were thinking through that, so that kind of takes us through that what we envision this to be, where we want to be.
Sure.
And then the next thing Tracy talked about was what are those gaps that we can identify that may occur, that may prohibit us from getting to this, so we can work through that in the project. And it looks like you have a few. Is that a comprehensive list, or?
No, definitely not. This is just what came off the top of our head in like 2 minutes. So I'm sure we can think of a lot more. But as of right now, our gaps or barriers that we were thinking of was contacting the patient. We've heard frequently from like home health and health at home members that contacting patients after discharge is difficult. Like, we don't have the right phone number, don't know how to get a hold of them, don't know where they are. Also, patient compliance. Honestly, that's kind of the reason that we're here, is because we have a lot of issues with compliance and following up with medications. Homelessness. So that's a growing problem in our area, and we're not really exactly sure how to navigate those waters yet. Transportation to the clinic. Some people don't have a car, and of course we don't have public transportation like they do down in the city. Patient refusal to participate. Hopefully the patient will find value in what we're doing. Accessibility to providers. We're hoping that we can get some providers on board for this mission. And then lastly, space or resources. Like, where are we going to do this? We're not exactly 100% sure. So those are just some things we're looking into and thinking about prior to the clinic process.
So, and then as the project goes, we'll be getting input from the team as to additional barriers and that type of thing. So we'll see maybe a sea of pink. Right?
Yeah, right? Probably.
Awesome, fantastic. I think that helps us understand that the team has really done a great job of thinking about some of these things ahead of time. And so as our additional participants come in for the event, some groundwork really has been laid for them, and we can really get into the nitty-gritty of it and the meat and potatoes of the project from day one. So fantastic. That's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
So in addition to our A3 thinking that we're gonna take everyone through in this project, there's another lean tool called flow cells that is really critical to understanding before we go into this project. With flow cells, especially with this being a brand new startup, flow cells will become very, very important. So what I was wondering if Tracy wouldn't mind explaining flow cells and what they're all about and why they're critical to this.
It's very near and dear to my heart, yes. Flow cells, while the wording sounds complicated, it's a pretty simple idea, and that is it's the least waste way to do a process. I spoke earlier about, part of lean is removing those unnecessary steps from our processes. And so once we remove that waste, we basically have what we would call a flow cell. There are 4 basic components to the flow cell. So one of those is called one-piece flow or one-by-one flow. I think in a lot of processes, particularly in healthcare, we've kind of gotten into the habit of doing what we call batching, where we might kind of do one part of a patient process, and then I'm going to do lots of that particular part, and then I'm going to pass the work down. And what we're really working toward, so that we don't create these large, what we call batches of work, or kind of a lumpy process. We want to keep the process smooth and flowing. So we want to create a one-piece flow. It keeps patients from backing up, keeps the process moving. Along with that is something called pull. So we'd like to kind of pull patients through our processes rather than, again, trying to push patients into a part of the process when we're not quite ready for them yet. Again, that creates backup, it creates waiting. So if we can ensure that we're ready for each patient and pull them along, it again helps with the flow. Another component, the third component, is standard work, and we talked about that too as kind of a pillar of lean. What's the best known way to do it today, and agreeing upon that and all following that, supporting each other in that standard to reduce the variation. The fourth one, which is fun, everyone tends to like this fourth component, it's called 6S. And it is about setting up the environment of your workspace or the patient flow to, again, help reduce the waste involved in the process. So having all the things that we need in order to care for the patient right there where we need them and in order, not having lots of extra things in our way that cause us to have to move around things and that sort of a thing. Kind of like tidying up your favorite coat closet at home.
Yeah.
Feels good. All four of those components are supported by visual management, which is incredibly important in Lean. You can see from just the work we've done here, it's visual. I don't have to go to somebody to ask about how the process is going. There's some sort of a visual tool that I can use to understand quickly. Again, it saves people time and it makes it very clear to everybody how the process is going. I think it's really important to keep the flow cell concept at the forefront of everyone's mind for a project like this especially. This is a new process, right? We're used to using this when we're thinking about improving processes, but how great that we can actually think this way as we're creating a new process, because we're gonna kind of get it right the first time and not actually build waste into our process. So I'm excited.
Yeah. No, that is super exciting. When I think about this idea of flow cell, I think about different places like Chick-fil-A or like Subway, where they really seem to have that process in place, ready to go.
Yeah, that's a great point. In fact, Subway, I like to use that as an example. You think about it and they're not perfect, but they're really, really good. If you go to a Subway here or you go to a Subway in New York, you're going to get about the same experience, right? It's about the same process. They have everything set up in the same way. So there's some standard work. Yeah, there's standard work there. And also they're pulling the patient, not the patient, they're pulling their customers. In other words, they don't have a lot of sandwiches already made, right, for you. They're creating the sandwiches as the customer comes in and needs the sandwich. So there's the pull. 6S, if you think about the fact that, is everybody having to run all around the restaurant to find their supplies, or is what they need right there in front of them? In other words, the bread, they don't have to go to the back of the restaurant to get the bread, right? It's right next to them. When you think about the fact too, they have the customer involved in what they're getting in the end process. So I'm able to watch my sandwich being made, right? So very little chance of defect or problem with the sandwich because I see it going down the line. As well as visual management. If you look on the little glass, they have pictures of the sandwich bread, so you kind of know which bread you might like to choose. So really, again, thinking about all of those components is what comprises a flow cell. So there's lots of businesses, lots of organizations that really use that same philosophy.
Yeah. So as we go into the project, really important that we're all keeping that in mind so that we can design a process in a clinic with the least waste, right? So fantastic. I think that those are pretty much the primary things we want to discuss as far as being able to prepare the participants for coming into the project. So the lean philosophy, the A3 thinking, what we've done already to prepare for this, and then of course the flow cell. So what I'd like to do is just take a little bit of time for wrap up here to kind of talk about what they can expect and that type of thing. So Tracy, as we wrap up here, we'd like to kind of just remind folks of the dates and the time and the location and kind of what to expect. So can you share that with them, please?
Right, so it's a 3-day project and we're going to start on October 16th, which is a Tuesday. It'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It'll be held in the Wentzville room in our medical building number 1. We'll start promptly at 8 a.m. and we'll go till 4:30 each day. And that will be the duration of it, just a 3-day project. So come ready to work, and we have lots to do.
Fantastic, thank you. And Catherine, as one of the project owners, do you want to share anything with the team as far as what to bring, or just things they should be
Yeah.
thinking about leading up to the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no need to bring anything. Miss Dawn will supply everything that we need during the project, including lots of sticky notes. So you know,
snacks.
just-
And
Snacks. That's the best part. Everybody likes the snacks.
Snacks and drinks.
Yeah, that's the best. So just coming in prepared and thinking about like what is a discharge pharmacy clinic, or what does a discharge or transitional care clinic mean to you? And like what thoughts kind of come to your head? What do you foresee this being? Like how can we help these readmission patients? So really just kind of thinking about those things and getting the wheels
Right.
turning and before they come in.
Yeah, and probably
So-
the barriers, I'm thinking.
Barriers,
because
sure.
almost every one of the participants, was carefully selected because we knew that they had a lot of insight into what the barriers are and the
Right.
problems that
Right.
we face with these patients. And so, getting their wheels turning and ready to throw all those out for us so we can get lots more than that. That was just
Oh yeah, a lot more.
Just a little taste, right?
Yeah.
Lunch will be provided as well,
Mhm.
right? Dress in layers, because of the room temperature will fluctuate, right?
Yeah.
And then just, like you said, come on in and be ready to share your great ideas, because we're excited about this project. And we are looking forward to working with everybody that's going to be participating. So at this point, we'll go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's gonna be a good week, I can't wait.
It's going to be a phenomenal week.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of support for this project. So the enthusiasm pre-project is amazing. I can't imagine what it's going to be like during the project. So
Yeah.
it'll be fantastic. And of course, with our patients at the forefront.
Sure,
Right.
absolutely.
All right, so that being said, we're going to go ahead and sign off for this session. Thank you again for joining us. Please reach out with any questions, and we'll see you October 16th at 8 a.m. Bye.
Bye.